Hi, welcome to the inaugural episode of Williams Mullen's series on mezzanine lending, where we hope to provide you with some additional information about mezzanine loans and the type of problems that can occur with those loans. In part one, we are going to outline a typical mezzanine loan and the types of collateral that are generally provided for that loan and the senior loan. In part two, we'll look at why mezzanine loans are attractive to borrowers. Part three will cover why mezzanine loans are attractive to lenders. And then parts 4 and 5 will look at the types of problems that occur for both borrowers and lenders in connection with mezzanine loans. So part 1, this is a very plain vanilla type mezzanine loan. There are much more esoteric structures and variations on the themes that we will talk about, but we're going to deal with a very ordinary, a normal type of mezzanine loan here. So as you will see, there is usually, or as always, a mezzanine lender and a senior lender. The senior lender makes a senior loan to a mortgage borrower who is separate from the mezzanine borrower, and that mortgage borrower usually is the owner of a piece of real estate. And I think here it's worth mentioning that in connection with senior and mezzanine lending, they can really be applied to a variety of real estate types. We've seen mezzanine loans made in connection with office buildings, multifamily housing, senior healthcare assets such as skilled nursing facilities and assisted living, medical office buildings, and industrial buildings. In short, they are really applicable to a wide range of transactions and can be very useful to borrowers. So as I said, the senior lender generally makes a loan to a mortgage borrower that is the owner of the particular piece of real estate, and in return receives a mortgage or deed of trust, depending on the state, on that office building. The mezzanine lender, by comparison, makes a loan to a completely different borrower, usually the owner of all of the equity interests in that mortgage borrower, and the mezzanine lender receives a pledge of the membership interests or other equity interests in that mortgage borrower to secure its loan. So in this structure, there is also a guarantor that generally provides certain assurances to the mezzanine lender, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Randal, would you care to talk a little bit about the use of the proceeds in these loans?
Sure, Bob. Thanks. So the proceeds of the mezzanine loan are used to fund the acquisition of the underlying real estate securing the mortgage loan. And typically, the principal amount of the senior loan is between 65 and 75% of the value of the real estate. However, with COVID, we have seen some senior lenders who are unwilling to loan more than 65% of the value of the underlying real estate. And then the principal amount of the mezzanine loan is usually between 10 and 15% of the property value. But that, varies by institution. As Bob just said, the collateral for the mezzanine loan is the membership interest in the senior borrower, which owns the real estate and not the real estate itself. So the mezzanine lender is effectively lending against an asset that it doesn't have a direct security interest on, which is a little bit unusual. But despite that, mezzanine lenders are willing to provide financing in reliance on the value of the underlying real estate. So if you think about it sort of abstractly, the value of the mezzanine collateral directly depends on the value of the underlying real estate, since the mezzanine borrower has no tangible income producing assets other than its interest in and distributions that it receives from the senior borrower. So if the value of the real estate exceeds the amount of the senior loan, then the mezzanine collateral has at least some value. Given that correlation, mezzanine lenders are concerned with both their own collateral as well as the underlying real estate, and typically structure their loans in a way that protects both. One way that mezzanine lenders protect their interest is by requiring that both the senior borrower and the mezzanine borrower are single purpose entities, meaning that their sole assets and sole sources of income are the mezzanine collateral and the real estate. And this requirement just makes it less likely that other unrelated assets or properties will adversely affect both the mezzanine collateral and the underlying real estate. Mezzanine loan agreements also contain protections for the mezzanine lender in the form of various provisions relating to the mortgaged property, which typically track the senior loan. And in fact, in many cases, the mezzanine loan agreement is based on the form of the senior loan agreement, since the mezzanine lender typically wants many of the same protections and rights to information as are given to the senior lender. And including these property related provisions allows the mezzanine lender to participate in certain decisions that affect the value of the property, and of course therefore directly affect the value of the mezzanine collateral. And some typical examples of these property related provisions include rights to information and notices about the property, rights to approve alterations or improvements to the property, the right to approve the budget for the property, rights to approve leases, and certain other major decisions that relate to the property.
Right. And even though there's a lot of provisions that are similar between the mezz loan agreement and the senior, it really is very important to bear in mind that these are two entirely separate loans made by two entirely separate lenders who have no obligation whatsoever to look out for each other's interests. And that is why, in addition to those provisions that are in the mezz loan that look through to the value of the collateral in the real estate and attempt to preserve that value for the benefit of the mezz lender, there is also an intercreditor agreement between the mezz lender and the senior lender. And that intercreditor agreement lays out the circumstances in which the senior lender says, yes, mezz borrower, I agree that if these very important issues come up, like Randal mentioned about improvements to the property, changes to the property, leases of the property, etc., when those types of issues come up, the intercreditor agreement says, okay, both lenders will be involved in having to give consents for those types of issues. And over and above that, the intercreditor agreement lays out exactly where each of the lenders can exercise certain remedies that may be attached to their loan agreements. So that's an extremely important document for mezz lenders to negotiate for protection. The other document that is extremely important for the mezz lender is a non-recourse carve-out guarantee, which is a guarantee provided by an individual that essentially says that individual will be a policeman of the property. It will make sure that certain extremely important payments, such as taxes and insurance, get made in a timely manner so that, again, the value of that property will be preserved. And it also says that in the event some issue occurs which causes an event of default under the mezz loan, necessitating the exercise of remedies, the guarantor will make sure that nobody on the guarantor's team is exercising any kind of rights to prevent or hinder or delay the lender in being able to exercise those kind of remedies. So again, that document is extremely important in preserving the rights and the ability to exercise those rights for the mezz lender. In part 2 of this series, we'll be looking at why mezzanine loans are attractive for borrowers. We hope that you can join us to listen in on those issues.